It is media day, and I am being joined by Coppell Head Coach Antonio Wiley, which is a significant name to have considering you stepped into Coppell and y'all started wiling out last year. And you said you only lost the two games, and it was the two guys that went, 3 rounds deep at least in the playoffs. So it's not like you lost to some slouches. Talk about your first year as the head man for the Cowboys and how you got them playing ball, 9-1 on the regular season, 9-2 overall.
Oh man, it happened fast. I'll tell you, I attribute our success to our seniors from last year because you can come into a situation like this and you never know what you're going to get. If those seniors were highly attached to the previous regime and the previous head coach, that getting them to buy in sometimes tough for them to get in the boat. But credit to our seniors, they were just ready for change. Not saying anything what needed to just absolutely be changed as far as the way things are ran. But what I will say is, they were hands-on and gung-ho about leaving their mark on the program and kind of setting the foundation for the team, for the classes to follow, to have something to live up to. And we had a group of seniors that just took off, and then my coaching staff did a great job of just getting the guys ready to go week in and week out, and not being glass half empty kind of guys. Not worried about the pieces of the puzzle that we necessarily didn't have that were better than our opponents. We just found ways to put our kids in positions to be successful. And to our kids' credit, they just jumped out there and they executed the plan week in and week out. And the two teams that beat us were really good football teams. And it's in Louisville and McKinney, and both of them, they had one thing: they had physicality and they had years within their system. And I think we have to be able to find a way to match those types of teams if we're going to find a way to make a run in the playoffs and be a serious contender.
It feels like the momentum you built through that first season kind of really went into the off season because you had a very successful 7-on-7 season. I mean, you guys went deep in that state tournament there. Talk about how, do you feel that kind of snowball rolling into 2023?
Man, I don't know. I try not to get too excited about, 7-on-7 and, talk about 7-on-7. Our big boys went down to the state lineman challenge and got second place there. So, it's one of those deals where you try not to breathe too much, try not to, shine too much light on that, because the bottom line, it still has to happen in August and September and October and all the way up until December to put it all together. But I will say this: our kids were fired up about going to work and trying to find a way to become a competitor in this state in the class of 6A. So that's what the whole off-season premise was. Let's go out and get bigger, faster, stronger. Let's prepare our bodies for a playoff run if possible. You know what I mean? That's kind of what the off-seasons look like. And so far in the competitions that we've been a part of, whether it be 7-on-7 or lineman challenges or whatever it is, our kids have stepped up to the challenge and been ready to go out and compete at a high level.
How are things looking at the quarterback position? Because Fishball has gone on, and name we enjoyed saying, but we can't say it no more. He's moved on. You do have a lot of solid receivers coming back, so that should help whoever you have in there, quarterback. Maybe talk about them a little bit and who you have coming in there and how confident you are in them.
Man, we've got two guys that are just fighting their butts off for that spot. We've got a senior in Alex Holder, who was Jack's backup last year, who's right there in the mix. And then we've got a junior whose name is Edward Griffin. He's super talented. I mean, these two guys have pushed each other all spring, and just I'm excited to see where it's going to go.
If we want to flip over to the defensive side of the ball real quick, you got 6 guys returning starter-wise, but the ones that jump out of the page for us are Weston Polk there at linebacker and Zach Cody in the defensive backfield. Talk about those two and maybe some of the other guys that are going to step up and maybe be a power in this 6-6-8.
Man, Zach Cody's just going to be that corner you can put out there and just put him on somebody's best receiver, and he's going to give you a chance to win every Friday night. Really athletic, really humble kid, though. His recruiting took off really heavy this offseason through spring and into the summer, and I think he's kind of narrowing in where he's going to go to school at. And, he's just a good kid, man, very humble, like I said, and doesn't look for all the accolades to come to him. He's not, hey, look at me. He's about, Coach, what do we got to do to win as a team? And that's what and whatever it takes, whatever we ask him to do, and that's what he's going to do. Weston Polk, what can I say about Weston, man? I mean, he plays safety for us, but he's going to line up and play in the box at linebacker. He's going to do a little bit of everything. he's going to be our utility knife. I mean, a guy that just lines up. He can play deep safety. He can play the linebacker spot. He's athletic. He's big and strong. I mean, you're talking about 6'2", 215-pound junior who can play at safety and line up at inside linebacker and play really well. I think the sky's the limit for him, and I think he's going to have a great year and help us push through some barriers that we ran into last year. And I also, we've got a lot of guys coming back that played for us, at linebacker, at D-line. We've got, a couple guys that started for us last year. So we've got a couple pieces that are going to be key in trying to help us attain the level of success that we're trying to get to.
You talk about 6'6", and there's quite a bit of familiarity there because granted, it's the four Louisville ISD teams that are always going to be together, but Coppell is always going to be with them as well. It seems like that whenever the realignment, and then the last couple of years we've been kind of bringing Plano ISD with us where you go. But when you have that kind of familiarity with these teams, you know what they're all about. Does that kind of help or hurt?
Man, I think it can help in some ways and it can hurt in some ways, because the bottom line, if you're familiar with them, they're familiar with you. I spent time in this district when I was at Louisville as a defensive coordinator, and so it ain't hard for those guys to go back and look at our old film and say, hey, okay, this is what they do on defense. The offense is a lot different from what we've done, but I think the familiarity it's a double-edged sword for us, definitely. But I think me kind of having a little bit of experience in this district and also understanding what it's going to take to win in this district week in and week out helped our program tremendously this year.
What's it? You guys get to have Louisville at home this year. I know it's like you just mentioned. That's a team you used to coach. You used to be familiar. Right now, they've been kind of ruling the roost here at 6'6". I know there's other. You're not going to dismiss all the other teams, but the Louisville has been running things right now for the last year or two. What's it going to take to get them? Is it as simple as getting them on your home field to maybe tip the scales in your favor?
Man, it's going to take a lot more than home field advantage. I'll tell you this, Mike Odell, I love that dude. He's a really good friend of mine. And I'll tell you this, he's got them rolling. He's got them believing, and he's got those formers figuring out how to conquer the hill. And they're standing on top of the hill right now as far as 6'6" goes. And we're not the only ones. Coppell aren't the only ones who are trying to knock them off of it. But you've got a lot of talent in this district, and everybody understands that they've been the district champs for a couple of years running, and we got to find a way to get them off the top of the hill. And it's not going to be an easy task. I mean, it's going to take. You're going to have to go out and play one of your best football games. You can't make a lot of mistakes because they're a good football team, and if you make mistakes against a good football team, you lose. And I think you're going to have to be able to match their physicality. They have some massive kids up front that tend to plow the road if you let them get started early. So I think you have to find ways to neutralize their run game and make them beat you doing something they really don't want to do. And I think that's going to be the key to anybody trying to knock them off the hill, is finding a way to match their physicality and finding a way to execute at a very high level against them. And Coppell is definitely a team that we're trying to figure out the code to that puzzle, so we can see if we can be there and have an opportunity to win them.
Well, it's going to be a fun district, and it's even funner for me since I live up here in Flower Mound. I'll be at a bunch of these games. So I appreciate you joining me, Coach, and good luck in the fall.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.